What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, Oli JT Brown here. Today we're back with episode 2 of the Heads Up Challenge between Linus and Prodigy. In this series I break down hands from the 20k battle and I will show you solver outputs to see how theory compares to the decisions they made in game. Today we got a new set of interesting hands to dive into, so let's get started. So first hand of today we have a single raise pot. We see Prodigy raising the button with the 7-6 offsuit and Linus defends with the Jack 7 offsuit, and we see a King Queen 10 rainbow. Now here, as Prodigy, I will probably go with a polarized strategy, and we see Prodigy quickly goes for a bet for the whole pot. So pretty polarized strategy here. You can go even 120, 130, something like that. And I think the 6-7, it's decent. You don't want to take it all the time. It's basically, I think, a low frequency. When you're polarized, you don't want to bluff just with equity. So 7-6 is actually good enough to go for it. You basically are blocking some of the King X offsuit. So I think it's a decent end to bet. You don't want to bet all the time. I think it's a low frequency. Maybe something like 20-30%. Linus just has a continue here. Don't think you can ever fold an open-ender here. So easy call for Linus. Linus continues and we see the 7 of hearts. Now here Linus checks. And as Prodigy here, I think you have a mandatory bluff here with the 7x. You are mostly betting all of your 7x, I think here. You might even get called for something worse, like some Jack X of hearts, maybe. So I think it's completely fine to go for it. Let's see what Prodigy does. Here I would go probably something like pot. I don't think you want to go too huge, like 150. Let's see what Prodigy does. Okay. Wow, okay, 150. So I think here it's a bit big, 150. Basically, you put pressure on the range even with something like a pot size bet, but it's fine. It's completely fine, and I would take this hand, so I like it. Now, as Linus, it's already a close decision because you have an open-ender and a pair, but basically, if you're Linus, you know that here 7x blocks some of his bluffs. It's already a close decision. I don't think you can ever fold this hand. Mostly a call in theory, this hand. We can see that Linus calls, okay? And the river card is the 5 diamonds. Linus checks. And as Prodigy here, with the 7-6, I don't think you have a mandatory bluff on the river. It was on the turn, maybe like most of the times. But on the river, I don't think you need to bluff all the time this end. I think you have some sort of showdown against some of his Jack X of hearts. Some of his maybe Ace X of hearts. So sure, you block calling range, but you have some sort of showdown. I would not bluff all the time with my 7x region. I think you have some non-showdown hands to bluff first. So I think I would have taken this to showdown. Let's see what Prodigy does. And then he ships it in. Sure, always aggressive in this game. And Linus, I think it just has a snap fold here. I mean, probably a snap fold. I think it's just a losing hand here. Your opponent needs to be massively over bluffing to hold this hand. And even if he's massively over bluffing, I think you block most of his bluffs here. Sure, you block some of his value, but I think you mostly block his bluffs. Imposition player, I think is supposed to be bluffing some of his 7x region. Not all the time, but some of it. And I think the Jack 7 mostly blocks bluffs, man. I don't think this is a good hand to call. I would always fold this hand. Even if I think my opponent is slightly over bluffing, I think I would just lay down this one. I would rather call all of my King X region. You do have a lot of them. I mean, when you call big bet on flop, big bet on the turn, you mostly have top pairs in your range. And second pairs plus equity. So I would not call this hand. Let's see what Linus does. Thinks for a while and then he flicks in the call and wins this 200 big blind spot with the Jack 7. I think this one is particularly crazy. I think this is a losing call in theory, from my opinion. And I think Linus is just not afraid to make this kind of huge deviations from theory. I think here is basically saying you're massively over bluffing and I just close my eyes and call you down. I don't play these games, but I would not call this hand like ever. But we see Linus is not afraid and he wins the pot. Let's go to the next one. Just a quick break, guys. If you're enjoying the content so far, like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to drop a comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts and feedback on this one. Now back to the video. So second hand for today, we have a 3-bet pot. Linus opens, Prodigy 3 bets, and Linus makes the call. And we see King 5 deuce rainbow. Now here on this board, you can go for something like 30%, 40%. It's completely fine. It's a decent board for the out of position player. You should not be betting your whole range here. I know for the 6 max players, king eyes, the board are particularly good, but heads up, if you see a king 5 deuce, it's not that great. The fact that king is good is fine, but the 5 and the deuce are not great for the out of position player. I would not bet my whole range here, and I would go for something like a 30 or a 40% bet. And with Prodigy's end, I think you could bet most of the times, basically all of the times. Let's see what he does. I think he would bet this one. Okay, so he goes for a B25, and Linus, I think just as a continue here, you don't want to play a lot of raises here. If you do, I think this hand might raise some of the times. I think it's something like value against these backdoors and stuff, and you block most of his re-raising range. But I don't think you want to do this a lot of times. You just need to call most of your range here. Linus makes the call, and we see a turn 10. Now, the runout is rainbow. Here, we're a bit deeper than 100 big blinds deep. And as Prodigy, here you want to polarize a lot. You're basically never betting here, something like pocket jacks. I think now you want to mostly polarize on the king X region, pocket aces region, and I think you want to be going for something like a pot size bet. In a hand like ace king, I would check a bit more than something like king queen, because basically your opponent doesn't have ace king in his range. So when you have the king queen, you unblock his calling range, which might be something like ace queen, of course, and you're basically beating the same stuff as ace king. You're already losing against the 2-pair region, so it doesn't actually really matter since your opponent doesn't have ace king in his flooding range. So with the king queen, I would mostly go for bet, and I think I would go for a pot size bet here. I think when the board is completely rainbow, the SPR is still a bit high, and you want to build around your king X region, around your pocket aces region. So I would go for a pot size bet here, and I would take this end probably like 90 to 100% of the times here. Not sure about the frequency, but I think it's fine if you bet all the time this kind of hands. Sure. Goes for the pot size bet, and now has Linus. I think you're mostly folding pairs, like pocket pairs, stuff like pocket sixes, pocket sevens, pocket eights. I think you're mostly continuing with 5x region, especially the ones that can improve, something like ace 5, you're never folding. Most of your 5x, I think you need to continue. You're basically always calling something like 10x or king x region. So I think here the ace queen is just supposed to be a call. You block his value range, you block his king, you block pocket aces, you block king queen. You have a nut gut shot, so I think it's low EV, but still pretty clear call on the turn. Don't have that many draws to continue to, so you want to defend your range. I think it's just supposed to be a call. And we see that Linus probably makes the call. Yeah. And we see a river 5. Wow, this is an interesting run out, because now a lot of players might be scared of the 5 on the river, but it doesn't impact the ranges that much. Of course, Linus is going to defend his 5x region, but in the pre-flop, we can see that there are not a lot of 5x in both ranges. So it's not actually a card that shifts that much. So here, if you have pocket aces, if you have a good king x, you can definitely go for a jam here as Prodigy. So I would say that Prodigy's end is just supposed to be a bet all the time. Let's see what Prodigy does. Yeah, he goes for the jam. I think it's completely fine here to go for the jam with king queen. Here as Linus, it's actually pretty hard with those kind of hands, because you block some of his bluffs, but you also block some of his value. And here you want to mostly defend your king X region. But even your king X, there are some king X that blocks mostly bluffs. Something like king 4. Here you don't have that many bluffs. So a hand like 6-4 might bluff all the time, and like 6-3 might bluff all the time. So having a 6, having a 4, having a 3 like king 3, king 4, king 6, it's not that great. Having the ace queen is actually decent because you're not blocking most of his bluffs that are the low region of the range. I think this hand you're supposed to be calling some of the times. I think you just block a lot of value here. You block ace king, you block king queen, you block pocket aces. I think this hand, since you have a lot of ace queen in your range, you cannot call all the time, but I think the hand specifically is fine to call. So let's see, I think Linus would always call this hand. Thinks for a while, goes into the time bank, then he makes the call, sure. And Prodigy wins this one. I think if you're Prodigy here and you know that Linus is never folding ace queen, you basically are not allowed to bluff here. You need to deviate a lot. I don't think Linus is calling all the time, but looking at the hands that I've seen in the challenge, I think Linus is just never folding. I would have cut all my bluffs here. Maybe half the frequency, I don't know. But your bluffs just doesn't work against this guy. I know it's strategy, I know it works for him, but I think you need to be smart about it. Of course, you cannot never bluff a player like Linus. You can start maybe cut some of your bluff frequency against him. He is basically never folding, man. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this guy, because I've never seen him fold like once in all these 3-bet pots, 4-bet pots. It's just crazy. I love his strategy, by the way. Let's go to the next one. Last hand for today, we have a 3-bet pot. Linus 3-bets. Prodigy makes the call with the 10-9. And notice that Linus 3-bets a smaller size than Prodigy. So we can see already some differences in their strategies in this challenge. And Linus now with pocket 7s on the 10-10-8. Basically all the paired boards are decent for the 3-better. Since you have more pocket pairs in your range, you have the overpair region. But it's a 10-10-8. In heads up, the 10x is not that great for the 3-better because the in-position players got a lot of offsuit broadways. But I think overall, sure, this probably can be a range bet for the 3-better. It's a 10-10-8, so the 8 is pretty good for the 3-better. I would go for a B30. I don't know if you can go for your whole range, but I think Linus is range betting here. And it goes for very small sides, B25. And I think Prodigy here is mostly supposed to call with this range, even against the range bet. Maybe some low frequency raises. See Prodigy calling. Run out is the queen of spades. Now here as Linus with the pocket 7s, you just need to be checking. You don't need to be building the pot. You don't need to be bluffing. You're basically in the middle of your range. You probably have some sort of showdown. You just want to check your hand basically all the time. As Prodigy though, with the trips, you're basically betting most of the times. I would say probably almost all the times. You're maybe supposed to be checking some of your full houses, something like King 10. You basically block everything, so it makes sense to check some times and let your opponent bluff on the river. But with the 10-9, I will go for the bet all the time here. I think Prodigy will always bet this hand, sure. Now, Linus' hands, I think is just supposed to be folding here. I don't see a reason to continue with pocket 7s. You're blocking even some of his bluffs. The board is too connected to continue with a hand like pocket 7s. You have way more hands to continue with. Something like 8x, queen x, pocket 9s, you pocket jacks. You have a lot of stuff to continue. Even some ace king is better than pocket 7s. You basically beat the same stuff and you have some improvement to make on the river. You have more cards to improve. I think this hand's just supposed to be a snap fold in theory. But if you're looking at this hand, you know what happens, right? Linus makes the call, of course. So we can see that it doesn't like to fold. And now the river is the 9 of clubs. This is actually interesting river because now Prodigy had the trips. You know that now trips loses to pocket nines, loses to pocket jacks. Linus, when he checks, it still has something like pocket eights, something like queen 10, something like pocket queens. So I would not be surprised if you have some donk jams here to put pressure on the 10x region, because if you go for the jam here, even with a hand like a jack x, your opponent is supposed to be folding some of his 10x. So if you have a hand like ace king, you might be able to bluff here. I don't know. I think you might want to construct some donking here, and I think the Linus hands might even be good enough, because you're not supposed to be arriving at the river with this hand. But if you want to put pressure on Prodigy's range on the river, I think you can do it with this hand. I'm not sure though. I would not find myself in this situation, because I would never have pocket sevens in this spot, which I would just always fold on the turn. But if you get here with this hand, it might be a good idea to bluff. Let's see what Linus does. Okay, he checks. We don't know if he has a donking range here. I'm pretty sure he has it though. And now Prodigy, of course, with the full house, is gonna go all in, so we can skip it. And he goes for it. And now Linus, of course, just has a snap fold in theory. Your hand is not supposed to be calling on the turn. Of course, it's not supposed to be calling on this river. What Linus' assumptions might be is that Prodigy bluffs too much with the low ace x region, low king x region. Maybe that he bluffs some of his backdoor stuff. I don't think you can ever call this one. Yeah, you unblock pocket deuces, pocket threes. Maybe he bluffs too much with the ace x region. But I don't think you can call this. I don't see how Prodigy can overbluff, massively overbluff, to make this call profitable. So I would just always fold this hand. Linus thinks for a while and then just clicks in the call again. This time he's not right with this call. This time he just loses. And I think this is the concept of this game. Linus likes to never let go of pots, and Prodigy, of course, you cannot be passive and bet just when you have it. I think you have to be smart about it. You have to construct your range properly to make these hands, like Linus did this in this one, completely negative, because this is a pretty big mistake in theory. I'll say this hand loses a bunch of VP already on the turn. You need to be readapting constantly in these games, and I'm pretty sure Linus does the same with Prodigy, so that's the beauty of these kind of battles. Prodigy wins this one. Not a good bluff catch this time for Linus. So guys, that was it for today's episode. If you missed episode number 1, make sure to watch it. I'll link it here, and I'll see you in the next one.